to tomorrow. Y'all, I am just getting in, like, and I thought that I would be able to have this conversation an hour ago, but I had so much ripping and running to do. It was crazy. But the conversation tonight was focused on the family, and it was talking about we were going to talk about the teachers situation where they're leaving education. I put up in my stories that there's a shortage of 300,000 teachers across the U.S. Those positions are vacant, and it's actually over that number. And most of those teachers, according to the statistics, they're predominantly black, and they're working in predominantly black schools. And so the reason that they said that they were leaving is because of they cited violence and being underpaid significantly. So I wanted to get everybody's take on this situation of what's going on. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Tiana Nichelle, serial entrepreneur. Have a nonprofit, Empower Society, for individuals with Down syndrome and other abilities, a mobile app that sends out daily inspirational messages. It's in Google Play, your Apple App Store. It also is a directory of services for families of individuals with disabilities. And we are in the middle of our supply drive, so please donate. The link is in the bio. We just partnered with South Suburban Special Recreation Association, and we're going to be at their 50th anniversary picnic on, what day is that? The 19th of August. So we're going to be giving school supplies away there. We also have 2 schools that are actually on our waiting list that actually reached out and said that they needed school supplies. And we have parents who have asked, and so guys, we need donations. $1, if you got $1, that's good enough. Every bit helps. But back to this conversation. So the teacher shortage is really a thing, and I used to actually be a teacher for 8-9 years of my life, and from my experience back, so I'm gonna say the kids today are different from the kids before, because when I stopped, it was around 2014, 2015, and then I actually worked in colleges. Like, I worked at University of Phoenix after that time, so I worked with adult students. But prior to that, I was teaching elementary. So it seems as though the students have changed, the attitudes have changed. Now there's no the zero tolerance policy has gone out the window, because I've actually talked to current teachers who were saying that was like the worst thing that could have happened, is for them to get rid of the zero tolerance policy, because now the kids are fighting the teachers. And it's very interesting the times that we're living in, because teachers used to be well respected. Like, we didn't talk to our teachers crazy unless our teachers said something to us sideways. Like, and I know my parents probably didn't talk to their teachers crazy at all, because back then the teachers was actually whooping your butt. Okay, so I would think that you wouldn't want to be talking sideways to somebody that has the authority to whoop your butt. But now that we've gotten rid of that, I feel like it has made the situation, it's like the teachers lack authority. Like, if you take out zero tolerance and you say that the kids, you can't talk to them or discipline them or do none of the things that you were able to do before, it brings in disrespect in the classroom. And so now we see these videos with the kids going viral, hitting the teachers, doing all of these things. And then the parents are like, oh, well, they shouldn't be hitting the kid, but your kid hit the teacher first. And I had this conversation previously, probably 2021, and I actually had another educator that came on. So I'm going to, when I post this video on my YouTube channel, then I'm going to link that video below so you can go to that video. But in that video, I was talking more about mental health. But I did mention the issues that children are dealing with, and that I think this also does speak to the mental health of the kids, but also what's going on in the home, because even down to smaller children, it seems that there's a disrespect that's happening. And what I have noticed, and I'm just going to say that when I was a teacher, those parents wanted us to discipline their kids. Like, and at that point in time, I was younger, and I was looking like, I don't want to do all of that too, because I helped raise my siblings. So talking to two people when you come home, and then you got to talk to kids all day while you teaching. Like, I didn't want to do all of that, but I winded up doing all of that. But the discipline was different. Like, I didn't have to use any force and do all of that other stuff. It was, okay, I'm taking something away, or you're going to, sit off to the side until you can gather yourself, gather your thoughts, remember how you're supposed to be talking and conducting yourself, that type of thing. But it was not like I didn't experience kids cussing me out. Like, no, that was just not a thing. But it seems as though that is different. Just don't have any respect. They don't even have respect for law enforcement. And so this is the thing, a different perspective than what most parents would have, or people that's like thumbing through the internet, and they have never been in education. So my perspective is a little bit different. And to me, if there's a child that is acting out, then that is something going on either internally, but more often than not, it's something going on at home. And it starts in the home. It's not necessarily starting in the school. It's starting at home. So if they're being disrespectful to their parents, it's like, who is everybody else? If I can disrespect my mother and my father, then nobody else matters. And I had a couple students that was like that. Like, would talk to their mother sideways and then get in the classroom and boys especially, they would try you, especially if you were a female teacher, they would try you. And I'm like, we're not doing that, sir. If you would like to miss out on what we are doing, then get yourself together. Like, I was not for that. So, but after a few of those, and now I have to call home because you want to, act out in class, whatever. But those students got themselves together. Nowadays, they be throwing whole fits in the classroom, and then when a teacher says something, I have talked to teachers where they like, when I have said something, the parents start cussing me out because I said something to their kid. But it's like, my problem with that is the authoritative figure that is teaching your child should have respect for. And the only way that they're going to have respect for that authoritative figure during the time that they're spending in class, supposed to be learning something, is if the parent demonstrates that they have respect for said individual. But if they're not demonstrating that, then the child is going to be like, whatever. There has to be a partnership between the teacher and the home, like whoever's at home, the parent, grandparent, whoever it is that's taking care of the child. There has to be a partnership, and that's the one thing that I stressed, but as a school, it was stressed back then. Um, that we're partners, like we're working together to make sure that your child receives the best education, that they are ahead of the game, that they get everything that they're supposed to get and more, and that they will excel in life after this point in every way, shape, form, possible. So if it was dealing with their behavior, tackling what things that they might understand or might not understand, just making sure that every part of their life was improved. And so nowadays, I don't I don't know what's really going on, and it's not. It seems as though people don't care about that. It seems as though, because like I said before, I talked to teachers who was just like, they were quitting. Like, they were like, I'm giving it one more year and I'm out of here. But they're not happy because they can't discipline. One person told me about a scenario where it was a situation where the student disrespected the teacher and disrespected a parent on a field trip. And then, the teacher was basically like, you can't participate in the extracurriculars or whatever. And basically sent them home. And then they were allowed to come back because the principal was like, well, we don't have a zero tolerance policy, so there's nothing that we can do about that. So to me, that's more of politics being brought into the schools rather than it being about the welfare and the best interest of the child. Teaching them life lessons, because my thing is, if children do not have discipline, then they are going to be a problem when they grow up, and it's going to be a police issue. And this is why there's so many different things going on today, because there is a disconnect like that. So we really need to get down to the bottom of what is really going on, because if teachers are saying that they don't feel safe, basically, like the violence is up, and then the other part is teachers put in so many hours and they're not getting paid enough. Like, what really is that? I remember I wasn't getting paid enough either. Like, I was working 14, 16 hours. You leave work and you still working because you grading papers, you creating the lesson plan for the next day. You might stay late because you set up the classroom. You want to do some type of fun activity. Do some type of maybe arts and crafts. Whatever the case may be, you're prepping for the next day. And you're prepping for your students to be the best, to be able to excel. So when you're doing that, that takes time and preparation. So you're not working just 8 hours. You working 12, 14, 16 hours, but bringing home 29, 30, 31,000 for a lot of teachers. There are a lot of teachers that make less than $40,000 a year. And even there are, like, I know some paraprofessionals who are making $15 an hour, $14, $15 an hour. What can you do with that in 2023? So I feel like teachers really need to be paid more. I think that people really need to consider what the teacher does. Is not just, a person is there watching your kid like they're a babysitter. No, they're actually putting time and effort, for most, because there are some that just don't care anymore. But most teachers are putting time and effort planning preparation into what they do. So they should really be paid for their time, their effort. The other part is the one thing that I've come across, and even with special education, because there's a major shortage in special education, and even in having the supplies and just different things that they need, a lot of the classrooms are lacking a lot of different things. And I don't really think that a lot of people really understand what that means. If your classroom is lacking the essential things, like if a teacher does not have what they need in order to teach, does not have the reference materials, does not have up-to-date books, or if students don't even have the supplies. I even saw a post, and I know this for a fact, that students do not have the supplies. It's another reason why I'm doing the supply drive for children with disabilities, because when I went into those schools last year, like when I connected with those administrators and I went into the schools and I talked to them and the teachers and aides and different people, they were saying that the kids came to school without book bags or the supplies that they needed. And so even though the supply drive previously was for, parents to be able to come and, it was a mobile supply drive where I would just, drop them off to wherever it needed to be. So parents would send me the information, would say what they needed, and I would literally go deliver those supplies, me and my sister. And that, for those of you who don't know, my sister passed away in 2020. She had Down syndrome. And that's how Empower Society was actually birthed, out of a need for families to be connected to resources. And then we had our first supply drive, and so now we're at the 4th annual supply drive. Last year, I continued the supply drive because she passed away in 2020. So 2021 I did it, 22, and she was a major influence in that, because had it not been for my experience with my sister, I would have never done anything like this. And then last year we made the biggest impact in the 4 years that we've been in existence. This year makes 4 years for Empower Society. And like the impact that it made last year, I was not even expecting that. That's the crazy. I wasn't expecting it. So to be able to help over 400 students, just me, and then I winded up having a team of people, because it was people that was like, I'm gonna help you. It was just so amazing. But I'm just in awe, because last year was really, really amazing. And I'm looking forward to this year being really, really amazing. Getting the donations in so that I can help. This year I want to help over 1,000 students get the supplies that they need. But connecting with the schools that have children with disabilities, and talking to them, and they're like, the kids didn't have everything that they needed. So when I went in, I was actually shocked, because I went to multiple schools and they were telling me that the kids didn't even have the basics. And so they were sending their homework home in plastic bags. And they were showing me like how their pencils were already broken in half, and whatever they had. Like they were showing me this stuff, and I was just like, okay, technically this was really for the parents to receive, these donations, but I am going to donate to the schools, because obviously the parents are not saying anything. Like, they're not really saying, those parents weren't saying that they really had a need. So I wound up donating to the schools. But and I was watching this video that Disability Scholar posted was talking about how the kids are being sent to school in Jordans and all of these different things, but they don't even have the essentials. They don't have school supplies, but they got on Jordans and everything else. And he's like, okay, what is really going on? So I find that to be very interesting, because that by far is the truth. Because even looking at those students when I was at the school, they were dressed fairly well, but if you're dressed well and you don't even have the essentials, then how are you setting up the child for success? They should have exactly what they need. But I'm glad that I am able to donate, and I am glad to be a resource, in order to help people who are in need of that kind of stuff, and school supplies and supports and different things. But so there are schools who are experiencing shortages in not only education, educators, I should say, but also in supplies and the help, and it's just a lot of different things. So my mind is like, okay, how long could this continue? Because there are a lot of schools that's already at capacity. Like, those schools were really at capacity within their classrooms, like, because at that point, even last year, they weren't fully staffed. They were looking for teachers and paraprofessionals to to help or whatever. So looking at the fact that there is a shortage of teachers, of staffing, they're not receiving the things that they need, and then the classrooms are already, for a lot of teachers, they're at capacity with their classrooms, or they have done dual. I remember even being in a dual classroom back in the day, but having dual grades. Like, I remember being in a split classroom where my teacher taught second and third grade. At that time, I was in second grade, and that was really crazy, because how do you really reach students when you're doing something like that? Like, because students already learn at different levels, and I don't think people really understand that. Like, they're at different levels already, because they learn in different ways. Students usually do not learn all the same way. So in order for a teacher to really reach them, number one, the teacher has to know what type of learner the student is, and then utilizing that knowledge to help the student, even further. So if the student is one who's a visual learner, making sure that there's visual aids. That the student is one that, has to touch everything, because there are students that learn by touching. So you just have to know that and use that to your advantage. But, like, to have that and then have an overcrowded classroom, and everybody is really not on the same page. And here's the other part. There are a lot of classrooms that have been integrated with people with disabilities. So to me, and I know for some parents, they wanted the whole inclusion piece. And inclusion is important in some aspects. But to me, knowing what I know about special education and what I have seen from even journeying with my sister throughout, her schooling. When she passed, she was 30, so of course she had been out of school, so that we was journeying, okay? But knowing what I know, some of them, I'm not gonna say all, but some of them really, really need specialized attention, And if you are teaching them as if they are like their counterparts, then everything is going to go over their head, and you're not going to be able to reach them. And so they're not going to be able to be successful like they should be if they were in a class that actually was for them and, offered the assistance and everything that they needed. So I think that this is really causing a major problem. You all can chime in, and I'm sorry. Thank you all for joining those who have been coming on. Hello. But I think this is really a major problem, because what is going to happen to our school systems? If you have overcrowded schools, and then you have schools that don't have enough teachers, which they're going to wind up closing down some schools and then putting those ones over into a different school so that there's a teacher in every classroom. That's actually what they're going to wind up doing. There are some schools that have already started doing that. So now you're going to have more vacant schools and more overcrowded classrooms. So who's really going to benefit from getting an education in the United States? I think that this is really a problem that really needs to be discussed, because right now a lot of students are already behind due to the pandemic. And a lot of teachers have reported that, and schools have reported that the testing scores are down. And it's really alarming, because for testing scores to be down, and it's across the board, there's a disconnect. And I don't know if kids just weren't able to bounce back from being at home. And here's the other part. That whole e-learning, to me, is not the best, because it doesn't address, one, the child's individual need, but also the fact that there's nobody that's really watching the child and making sure that they do work and they're continuously engaged, because you have some children that are easily distracted, and if they're at home doing their work, they're going to be easily distracted. They're not going to be paying attention. They're not going to be fully engaged like they should be, or even would be if they were in a class. So I think that being in the virtual setting has done the students a disservice, because two, they can't even receive the help that they need in order to do assignments, the one-on-one help that they might be receiving if they were in a classroom setting. So there's a lot of different things that's going on, and I want you all to chime in so we can have this conversation. Maybe it will help to shed light, because that's the one thing that I do besides relationships. I do talk about world issues and community issues. This is more of a community issue. This is a black issue. I mean, I know it's a across the United States issue, but seeing how the data is saying that more African American teachers have quit, and these are the same ones that are working at predominantly black schools, that is more of a community issue. So I just wanted to know what you all thought about that situation and coming up with some type of a resolve for that issue, because that is something that we really should be doing as a community, is coming up with solutions instead of just talking about the problem. So Hello, hello, hello. If you all have some recommendations, drop them in the comments. But um, looking at what some of the teachers were saying, as I said previously, that they were leaving education based on the increase in violence and the fact that they were not getting paid like they should be, is very alarming. And especially in this day and age, I think that teachers they really should have gotten paid way more. There were teachers that were getting paid $35,000, $40,000, and I'm looking like we should be well beyond that, because when I was teaching, that was the salary. You talking about some years ago. So I was teaching 2014, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, baby. Like, the pay should have gone up significantly, but obviously that is not the case. But I really believe if teachers have to deal with a lot of different issues, then they should be paid in order to deal with those types of issues if they're going to be in those environments, but also giving them the help and the support that they need in order to adequately be able to do their job. And that's one of the things, like, I really believe that teachers need the support, because I'm telling you, that's not an easy job. It wasn't an easy job when I was doing it, and you talking about elementary school, okay? So for those that teach high school, hats off to you, because baby, I do not have the patience for that. That's why I did not go back, because I just don't. That ship has sailed, baby. I don't see how the teachers are doing it. That's teaching high school. They really have to love the job, but there needs to be support from the administrators, from the school all around, in order for teachers to want to come back and teach. You're talking about a deficit of over 300,000 jobs that was once there. That is actually doing a disservice to students all the way around. Because if they have a sub that comes in, 9 times out of 10, and this is the thing, I know for a fact that there are states like Vegas, Arizona, they were like, basically, you don't have to have the credentials to become a teacher, to do subbing. Like, you didn't have to sit for a test to do it. You just had to have a degree, a clean background, and you was good to go. And so I know some people that subbed, and they was like, I don't see how nobody does this because the kids are out of order. And so I'm just looking like, and they weren't getting paid that much. This is the other part. They weren't getting paid that much. They were getting paid pennies to do the work of the teacher, and they was in there for quite some time. Teachers actually winded up quiet quitting. So to me, that's a whole nother thing. Like, are teachers actually quiet quitting? Are they like, they're like, okay, I'm gonna be out for a few days, get a sub, and then never come back to their job? Maybe that's what's going on, but why is this happening? From someone that I know personally that was a substitute teacher, and she decided she's not going to go back because she felt like the kids was way unruly and she had no help whatsoever. I really believe that if you're an administrator, then and you should be fighting to make sure that your teachers are straight, literally, because they are the backbone of the education system. Like, they have to deal with the day-to-day, so you should be like, okay, I don't know why they got rid of the zero tolerance policy. I really would like to know. If anybody knows, let me know. Why did they get rid of that? Because it really makes no sense. because now you're like sending teachers to be on the front lines of a war if you have unruly kids. Like, what is that? Nobody should be waking up to go to battle. Like, no, that is not living, and they're not even getting paid enough to do that. So if you all have solutions, just drop it in the comments. Or if you have experiences similar, just share. But I would like to know what the solution really is. Like, what is it that schools what can they do to make things really better for the teachers? Like, I'm putting out suggestions, to have the administrators to start backing the teachers up and putting more supports in the classrooms, and really having the administrators fight on behalf of the teachers. Like, that, to me, is the best solution. Instead of, I really think that politics has played a major role in education, and that is the reason why there is no zero tolerance policy. But the other thing that I see, because my background is in public policy and law, a lot of people don't know that, is that sometimes a problem is created when they already have the solution. So if there is unruliness and the violence is up, and there's all of these different behavior challenges that are happening in the school system, we already know about the pipeline to prison, that whole pipeline to prison thing. This is that amplified, and I really think that parents really need to know and understand that if your child is not able to be disciplined in a school setting, now the school or whoever has the ability, especially depending on how old they are, to call the police, right? So they call the police to whatever the situation is with the child being irate or fighting or whatever. That child might get a slap on the wrist starting off, but eventually that child is going to incur bigger charges if it's repeat instances. And so I feel like this is the gateway to filling up prisons, by having known what is going on and not allowing the teachers to discipline, because I really think that is one of the major issues. I don't know why discipline is really out of the classrooms. Maybe there was some teachers that abused that privilege, but I mean, parents abuse it, whatever. Those are situations that do occur, but at the same time, what was working because a lot of us got through school, and we didn't have the disrespect. A lot of us were teachers and did not experience the type of disrespect that teachers are currently experiencing. And a lot of us got good educations, and had good relationships with teachers, and we didn't see all of this nonsense that we see today. This actually disrupts another person's learning when a teacher has to stop and correct a student's behavior. So disciplining them at home is very key, because I do know from my own experience, when I would have to stop and tell a child, okay, stop playing around, or you're disrupting the classroom. It takes time, and now everybody's distracted and focused on their kid. That one kid that disrupted the classroom, now I got to refocus their energy and do all of these things to get them back on track to what we was doing before. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. So I think that there should also be a partnership, like I stated before, a partnership with the school. Parents need to be friends with the teacher, because this is a partnership. You send your child to learn. They sit in class longer than they sit at home. So in order for them to be set up for success, you need to be in partnership with the teacher. Even kids do not know everything, and this is the other part. Making kids friends, I never agree with that. I don't know why parents do that now. That was not a thing with us growing up. Our parents made it clear that parents was parents and friends was friends, and the two should never meet. I do wholeheartedly agree with that, because it skews the lines to how children conduct themselves with their parents, and it also skews the lines as to how they would conduct themselves out in public. And it's actually, to me, embarrassing when a child is disrespecting their parent and talking to their parent any kind of way in public. It's also embarrassing when that child is disrespecting another adult, and that's what has happened, where children think that they have the same rights and privileges as us as 30-somethings, 40-somethings, 50-somethings, you know what I mean? And they only been here for 1.5 seconds. Like, no. Somebody needs to be training them and teaching them and showing them, so they don't think that they know just as much as you do, if not more, because that's the kind of mindset that sets them up for failure. So there's a lot of different things that I see when it comes to this topic. A lot of different things that I think that we could do as a community, but everybody has to be on board in order for it to work. And then press these politicians. If you are a parent that believes in a zero tolerance policy, or an educator, then you should be pushing for these policies to be put back in the schools, not just taking it and being like, okay, whatever. No, you have a voice. You are able to advocate for whatever it is that you want. But when you sit back and don't advocate, and that's the other thing, I think that a lot of times, parents get tied up in their lives and everything they have going on. I get it. Like, I helped raise 2 siblings, so I know I actually helped raise a child that was not mine. I know. Going to work, building businesses, doing all of the things. I was in school, earning a master's degree, doctorate. Like, I know. Once you do all of these different things, you're tired. You're tired at the end of the day. But that, me being tired didn't stop me from advocating for my sister. Let me start there, because I'm still doing it. She's not here, but it didn't stop me from advocating for things that should be for her. Even creating our own organization, which does that. And I sit on boards and committees, and I do all of these different things to advocate for people like her. Even the baby that I was, helping to raise, really I was doing more of the raising, but making sure that he had the best education, that whatever the work was, put it in the work. Like, he came with his own things that he had going on, that I had to stop and be like, okay, what's going on? Let me do this. And I had to train myself to do things differently with him, because of the way he learned differently. He had a lot of sensory things going on, and it taught me how to handle a small child with autism because I didn't know how to do that. But even to say, okay, this is how he does this. When he does this, he's excited. When he does this, is because he's not used to this type of a noise, or he doesn't like this type of food because of the texture, just different things. So you are your child's best advocate. If you're a teacher, you are the student's best advocate. You can spark change. Don't think that your voice does not matter. Don't think that you are alone on an island. Yes, politicians have their agendas. Every year there's an agenda for something, and they may not have education on the agenda, but at the same time, you can spark change in order to bring buzz. I am an ambassador for the National Down Syndrome Society, which focuses solely on public policy. So in that, case in point, during lockdown, we had the opportunity to, my sister and myself had the opportunity to sit down and do a Zoom meeting with Dick Durbin. And so telling him our concerns, what we needed from the community, and just different things. I have talked to Tammy Duckworth, different people who did dabble, I should say, in being a part of policies that are for people with disabilities. So having a conversation, stating what is needed, and all of those things has really been important, and has gotten certain bills passed. So with that's why I do it, because I know that change can come from you opening your mouth, you having the conversations, you reaching out to the people. And it may not be that first reach out, it might be the second or third, but it's really important. And so you can spark change. I'm still doing it, and you all can do that too. If that's something you want, I think that teachers need to band together to ask for higher pay. If it was a nationwide boycott, and I say boycott because that's the only way that you're going to get something across. Boycott, where you're disturbing everything. You have to disrupt everything in order for change to happen a lot of the times. And if it's economics, then, economics about money, they're going to listen if you disrupt it. I talked about this before in some previous lives. You have to disrupt the money, because if you don't disrupt the money, ain't nobody up there gonna hear you. So in order for change to happen, you're going to have to, and I don't know what educator is gonna do this and how they gonna do it, like how they gonna get all the people on board, but I really think it's important that educators come together and they fight for more pay. They fight for whatever the policies that they need, whatever change that they need, so that they can get what they want. I think that these isolated boycotts and strikes are not enough. I think it needs to be something that is set up nationwide for there to be an actual change. If you want more people in the classroom, or security, or whatever, I don't know, whatever the need is. But you have the opportunity to voice that. You are the best advocate for that. So go out and advocate for it. I know that it sounds so far fetched, and people be like, "Oh, well, I don't have time for it." Then don't complain about it. If you don't have time for it, then don't complain about it, because I feel like that's just pointless. Like, to sit and complain and not put any action behind the complaint. If that's something that you all want done, then go do it. It's plenty of senators. All you gotta do is Google whatever your whatever state that you're in. Um, Google your senators. You can get their contact information. As a matter of fact, they are on break. This is August. They on break. They'll be back in session. Congress will be back in session in September. So, you should be able to reach out to them and actually have a conversation. So now is actually the perfect time to reach out to your senator and say however you feel. Send the email, talk to them. You might be able to have the conversation because they should be around here somewhere. I'm saying around locally because they're not in Washington. But you should be able to reach out to them. So find out who your senator is, who your state representative is. Reach out to them. They on break right now. They not in session, so you should be able to get something with them and have the conversation and tell them how you're feeling. Because if nobody's saying anything, nothing is going to happen. Like, you want more pay, but nobody's fighting for more pay. You just complaining about it. I'm going to tell you, if you fight enough, if you bug them enough, if you talk to the people, talk to all the right people, something is going to move, and it's going to move in your favor. So get out there, advocate, fight for what it is that you believe in. If you want, even the parents, if the parents feel like, they need more support, they need more teachers that they can partner with, or whatever, however they feel. I just think too, we cannot pacify the kids. We cannot make them feel like everything that they do is correct, because that's not the truth. We didn't do nothing correctly, and they're not doing everything correctly neither. So being able to correct the behaviors that they're doing and being able to handle someone else correcting their behaviors is something too that needs to happen. But also making sure that you as a parent are having the conversations with the teachers, not missing the parent conferences to find out what's really going on, so that you're not missing a beat as to how the child is performing. Maybe if they need some assistance in some areas, maybe if they're having some behavior issues, finding out where those issues are stemming from. Is a lot of the times, like I said, it's usually something that's going on at home. And when I say that, it's not saying that there's a negative situation per se. It is more what I found in my years of being in education, when parents are going through things like divorce, separation, one parent may leave, the parent was there, now they're no longer there. Different types of situations like that. Children internalize those things differently, especially when it's not explained to them, and they come up with their own conclusions, and out of their conclusions breeds anger, because that's just a natural emotion that comes up out of them. So if the parent is not explaining what has happened, then the child is left to their own devices to interpret it their own way. So that's what I mean by something going on at home, is that children do not a lot of the times know how to articulate how they're feeling, so it comes out in emotions and a lot of that emotion becomes anger and it's misdirected, and it shows up a lot of the times at school because that's where they're spending most of their time at. There could also be situations such as bullying that a lot of times parents don't know about. And a lot of times kids keep it to themselves. And I talked about this when I talked about mental health in children previously, because there are a lot of children that experience a lot of internal struggles and mental health struggles because they don't know how to express themselves. And it's really sad because that's where suicide and different things come from, those suicidal thoughts. I talked about previously my own journey with that when I was a teenager, and I went through a lot of stuff that nobody really knew about. I went through so much, and there became a point where I was praying to die, and my mom had no idea until somebody told her, and it was only because I had wrote it in a journal, and they found the journal, told their mama, called my mama, and that's how it was found out. But other than that, she would have never known. So I'm on that. Like, I have a lot of different experiences, and this is why I have these conversations, because I've had so many different experiences, and I know that they're for other people, not just for me. So I went through a lot of the trauma and healing and just different roller coasters, a lot of traumatizing situations. The list goes on. But all I'm going to say is when you get into some healing, you do not look like what you have been through. When you are intentional about your healing, about your mental health, about being the best version of you in spite of what has happened to you, you do not look like what you have been through. So it's very important to get yourself in a place of healing. But kids really don't know that. It takes adults to help them with that. And I think that we really need to prioritize mental health for kids. And I talked about that before. That's why I said I'm going to link that video when I post this on YouTube. I'm going to link that video so that you all can see the previous live that I talked about kids and their mental health, because it's really, really important that children receive adequate care for their mental health, because also the suicide rate has gone up in children. Because bullying is different. Bullying these days are different. It's different. Different things that we faced in school is not the same. It's like if a rumor started in school back in the day, it was in school. It didn't carry home. It wasn't on social media in front of everybody to see. It wasn't blasted like that. Like, it stayed contained in school. So when you come back to school, it's in the school. Now, if a rumor is started, it's put on social media. It's on Facebook. It's on Instagram. It's on TikTok. It's on Snapchat. It's on all of the outlets. Don't let somebody had created a video and it went viral, or created a website specifically for that, and that goes, everybody has access to it. It's just all types of craziness that kids have to deal with that we didn't necessarily have to experience in school. So that's the other part, making sure that they are healthy mentally, checking in with them to find out how they're feeling and doing, and don't just allow them to be like, oh, I'm good. I'm good is not enough. Let's talk about how you're truly feeling. If you know that there's some change that took place, something that happened relationally, maybe mom and dad split, something like that, then have the conversation on how do they feel about that. and go in depth and actually listen to what they're saying. That's the other part. Parents really do have to learn how to be active listeners, because that's not something that is taught to do. Parents usually are reactive, but if they're active listening when the child is saying, "This is how I feel," that can actually help them to keep the lines of communication open, um, or to be able to come to you freely and say, "Hey, this happened to me," or, "I'm not in the best mental space," or whatever it is, whatever the situation is, they'll be able to talk to you about it. And then if they don't, or you feel like as a parent that is too much, put somebody in their life that they can talk to and have those conversations with, that they will open up to, so that they are able to express their emotions, not bottle it up, and then it bubble up into rage, or then they go ahead and kill themselves. I actually was talking to my mom, and she was telling me about a situation where a kid killed himself because somebody that he was talking to posted a video of him naked, and I guess they posted the video and it went viral. Well, his parents had no idea about this video, and he was dealing with this, and they wanted money in return, and he wound up taking his life. So this is why having conversations, real conversations, in-depth conversations with your kids, and keeping the lines of communication open, it's really, really important, because you just never know what they are dealing with, what they are struggling with mentally. Because had he been a child that was going through that and dealt with it in an anger, like he dealt with it in a way where he was angry and doing all of these things, then it would have been a behavior situation, and maybe his parents would have seen it. But instead, he was a person that internalized it and wound up committing suicide behind it. And so that speaks volumes, because kids, like I said, deal with things in different ways. So parents really have to be cognizant of the fact that they don't articulate everything that they feel, but they do demonstrate it in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So being able to have open dialogue with them, or putting people in place, a community in place where they can come to and have those conversations, is just really, really important. Because we want them to grow up and to be happy, to be healthy, to know how to handle any situation the right way. We don't want to see them fall victim to the criminal justice system, because that's the whole other side. Like, if they don't have a handle on their emotions as teenagers, the criminal justice system is just waiting to suck them in. And then that's a whole nother ballgame, because once you're in the system, ain't no getting out. So there's just so many different things that are going on. But parents need to build the relationships with teachers. Teachers need to build the relationships with parents. Administrators need to be covering these teachers. It's just and keeping the politics out. I feel like parents and teachers need to advocate for better for the schools, more pay, better resources, all of those different things, so that we won't have this type of a situation where there is a gap. There's a major gap. You're talking about over 300,000 positions open for teaching. Like, that is unheard of. That is unprecedented. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot. So y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments. Nobody really chimed in, but I thank you all for joining and watching the videos. I'm going to put the replay up. I'm going to keep this up until I upload the replay on my YouTube channel. Tiana Nichelle, the Visionary, Crown Convos with Tiana Nichelle. And you can catch other lives there. But I do thank you all for joining the conversation, rocking with me for the last 2 years. I started these conversations in 2021, and I've gotten some really, really great feedback from different people that it has helped, and so I am glad to be of service. Again, my organization, Empower Society, we are doing a back to school supply drive. On August the 19th, we will be at the 50th anniversary of South Suburban Special Recreation Association giving out school supplies. So if you are interested in getting some school supplies while I am out there on that day, honey, pull up. I will actually link the information for the 50th anniversary picnic, because it's a family picnic with South Suburban Special Recreation Association. But all this month we will be donating school supplies. Like I said previously, we donated over 400. Well, we had over 400 students that received school supplies, not over 400 supplies. But we had over 400 students that received school supplies last year. So this year we want to do over 1,000. We already have some donations that have rolled in, but we still need more because we have a few schools that ask for donations. So the link is in my bio. Go to the website, empowersociety21.org/donate. You can donate the minimum of $1. If everybody donated $1, it would make a difference. So please, please, please do that. It's greatly appreciated. And with that, I will talk to you all later. If you all have some comments, some solutions, some things that you think should be implemented, or some ways to help, I want you all to leave something in the comments. When I post this on YouTube, I want y'all to get in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to get those followers up. Also, what else? I have a podcast, Empower Society Podcast. So make sure that you subscribe to that. It's on Spotify. And what else? I think that's it. If you are interested in life coaching, getting some life coaching, I have some spots available. The link for that is in my bio. Also, in September, I will be doing a masterclass to help families of individuals with disabilities advocate for themselves. I am bringing in special guests. So if you are interested in signing up for that, the link for that class will be available in my bio tomorrow. The actual link to register for the class. The class is 6 weeks. It's a 6-week class where you will learn how to advocate. It's going to be dealing with the IEP. It's going to be dealing with community, healthcare, all different types of issues and topics. So please make sure that you share that with someone who needs it. And if you are one of the people that actually needs it, sign up. Yes, it's going to be 6 weeks. It's going to be wonderful. I will be releasing who some of the speakers are. And yes, once you sign up, you will not have access to the full class until this class actually starts. So the class starts September 12th. So then once the class starts, you will get an email that will give you the material for that week. So every week you will be getting material for that week. So basically every Monday you'll be getting material for the week of the class. So you will be prepared. You'll be able to ask questions. Each session will be 2 hours. So you'll be able to get information and ask questions. So get in that class so you can better advocate for your child. You will be armed with the tools to be able to do that. And with that, I will talk to you all later. You all have a wonderful night. Bye.